Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is David Zayden, and welcome to the National Capital Planning Commission. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces, so welcome back to the National Capital Planning Commission, I should say. This public meeting is a continuation of the public meetings we're having to talk about the update to our comprehensive plan, and more specifically, the federal elements to the comprehensive plan. And tonight, specifically, we're talking about the foreign missions and international organizations element, which is a current element in the plan that we are working on updating. The initial proposal and draft updates was released by the Commission for a 60-day public comment period starting in May, and I believe runs until July 5th. And this meeting is a part of that dialogue. We want to get your comments and your input on the initial cut at the update of the element. So to talk a little bit more about why we're here, as I just said, we're here to talk about the draft update for the comprehensive plan, and also to learn about foreign missions and how they contribute to Washington's cultural life and promote diverse and lively communities in the city. One of the things that we like to do with these meetings is to have additional speakers come in and talk about related issues to things that are pertinent to the comprehensive plan. And tonight we have Sheryl Crow from Cultural Tourism to talk about the role that foreign missions and international organizations play in the cultural life of the city. That's a concept that we certainly embrace at NCPC and is reflected in the comprehensive plan. So we look forward to having her presentation tonight. Just to give a little bit of background, I think a lot of you are familiar with this, but DC is very unique when it comes, or Washington's very unique when it comes to comprehensive planning. Under the National Capital Planning Act, there are two separate components to the comprehensive plan for the National Capital. One is the district elements, which the District of Columbia is responsible for, and that's usually pertains to more traditional type planning issues such as land use and housing and economic development. There's the federal elements, which NCPC is responsible for, and these two elements are meant to be coordinated and consistent with each other. The district last updated the district elements in 2010. We are in the midst of our update. We are working through the 7 existing elements, and we're also adding an 8th new element, which is the urban design element. That has been put out for public comment, and we're working on revising that as we go through some other studies. So I'm going to turn it over to Angela Marr, who's our project planner, who's going to walk through the foreign missions element and the update, and then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end of the presentation.
Thank you, David. Good afternoon, everybody. As David previously mentioned, the element was last updated in 2004, and we like this to be a living document. So we're evaluating some of the existing policies, making sure that they still support new directives and current planning initiatives, as well as incorporate some of the current federal work that's been done to support foreign missions. There are a total of 195 independent states in the world, and the United States maintains diplomatic missions with over 190 of them. There are over 185 chanceries located in the city, and you see that most of these foreign missions use their chancery facilities for public events to help foster intergovernmental relationships with political, economic, and cultural level. So what are foreign missions? Foreign missions facilities house diplomatic functions commonly referred as embassies, and different diplomatic functions have different types of buildings, and in our element we have 2 separate types. That includes the chanceries, which are mostly office, and they're in office uses, office buildings, and also ambassador residences, which is the residence of the ambassador, and that's mostly found in residential uses. The Foreign Missions Act of 1982 was the legal foundation to facilitate secure and efficient operations for foreign missions in the United States. The Office of Foreign Missions, the Department of State Office of Foreign Missions, reviews and controls these foreign missions in the U.S. Our element actually provides policy goals for the federal government to plan a secure and welcoming environment in Washington, D.C. So here's an outline of all the policy areas that are in the element. We have chancery development, locating chanceries, chancery facilities, which the name was revised, previously known as a chancery siting, ambassadors' residences, and international organizations. And I'll go a little bit more into the other slides on the ones that we're highlighting and policies that have been updated. So the two main policy areas that we've updated are locating chanceries and chancery facilities. So although there are 180 existing chanceries located in DC, the greatest demand for new chancery facilities come from existing foreign missions. Because our missions are constantly expanding, they need larger facilities. We noticed that the past trend has been for foreign missions to have larger facilities on their own lots. Because the build out of the International Chancery Center, there isn't as much space. And the Walter Reed Army Medical Center is an opportunity site. So back in 2005, as part of the base realignment and closure, the Department of Defense closed the Walter Reed Army Medical Center campus and moved out to Virginia and also Maryland. The northwest portion in the red was transferred to the Department of State, and the east portion was declared as surplus and now is under the jurisdiction of the District of Columbia Local Redevelopment Authority, planned for reuse. So the Department of State is currently proposing to master plan the left portion in red as a foreign mission center. They're currently in the master planning process to see what chanceries can be located in the future development of that area. Currently, they are preparing an environmental impact statement as part of the NEPA process, as well as completing the Section 106 process. And we, National Capital Planning Commission, as well as the District of Columbia, is working with Department of State in the master planning process. So we have incorporated a new policy to give priority consideration for the location of a new foreign mission center at the former Walter Reed Army Medical Center. And we really hope that to see future chanceries located at the site. So where foreign missions may locate. Chanceries may locate in matter of right areas, which is shown in red on this map, which are areas known as commercial, industrial, waterfront, or mixed use. And foreign missions may locate in these areas without regulatory review. Other areas in blue is the diplomatic overlay, and these are areas allow for also foreign missions to locate. However, if not disapproved by the Foreign Missions Board of Zoning Adjustment. So here's a summary of locating chanceries policy area and our three main points. We want to make sure to give priority consideration for the location of chancery facilities in matter of right areas, to reuse some of the existing chancery facility location, and also give priority consideration to the proposed foreign mission center at the former Walter Reed Army Medical Center. In our previous element, policies encourage foreign mission center to be located at the Armed Forces Retirement Home and also the South Capitol Street corridor. Due to the changing conditions, they're no longer policies that we're incorporating in the draft update because these priority locations are no longer the new foreign mission center that we're proposing, and instead we are focusing on the Walter Reed Army Medical Center. For the Chancery Facilities Policy Updated area, we're including an additional policy for sustainable urban design. The DC Greening Embassies forum established by the Department of State and Earth Day Network brought over 50 diplomatic missions and international organizations in 2012 to sign a pledge with the city and mayor. They were able to commit to maintain their operations sustainably and to pursue environmental and efficiency goals that are consistent with those in the District of Columbia. Our element also wants us to be a goal to implement sustainable site and building design, and I think with the proposed Walter Reed and the new foreign missions, we're able to, hopefully incorporate some of these sustainable urban design on that campus. So we have some additional policy on maintenance. under Chancery Facility Policy area. And we really want Chanceries in the city to really to be good stewards and good neighbors, especially in the neighborhood. And some of these policy addresses maintenance of the existing Chancery facilities, as well as enhancing the public green space that they share with their neighborhood. We have also incorporated an additional policy with historic preservation to provide access to campuses containing historic properties in order to promote awareness of their significance. And this is also another great policy, I think, that would benefit with the Walter Reed campus and the future development of the Foreign Missions Center, since there's a lot of great historic resources located on campus. I think it would be great to have a shared access to that campus so people have a better understanding of what's there. We've incorporated 3 additional policies regarding public space. Foreign missions are encouraged to provide access to or connections through campus, building yards, courtyards, or even open space networks where possible. We also encourage that the design of perimeter security elements, flag poles, and other elements to be located within the building yard and also not in public space, and to design to relate to the surrounding context. And also one of our major goals is not to obstruct public space. So there's a great cultural presence in the District of Columbia, and foreign missions help add international character to some of the neighborhoods. We have existing policy in the element that supports citing chanceries so that they add visual interest and character, as well as contribute to the cultural life. Many foreign missions now host cultural events such as art exhibits, concerts, and films, or sponsor special events that increase their awareness of their country and promote trade and tourism. Which leads me into our next discussion. Please welcome Sheryl Crow, who is from Cultural Tourism DC, who is the Business Development and Government Relations Manager. She's going to talk about their mission, their great work that they've been working with the embassies, and how they've had an impact in the neighborhoods and the cultural presence that the embassies have. So please welcome Sheryl Crow.
Thank you, Angela. Good evening to you all. How many of you, I just want to know who I'm talking to this evening, how many of you all are familiar with Cultural Tourism DC? Oh, yay. That's exciting. So I'll just be very brief then on this piece. We are an independent nonprofit. We have 250 members who represent culture, heritage, humanities, and community organizations in DC. We are DC-based. These are some of our members here too. And when I say we're DC-based, all of our members are in DC, and we focus our activities only in DC. Our members include Kennedy Center, 57 embassies, some of the smaller destinations in some far-flung parts of the city, tour guides, and of course the business improvement districts who can also help us with the members that are in those specific districts too. All 8 wards are represented, and many of the neighborhoods as well. These are some of the benefits to our members, and we'll have an annual conference on July 17, 2013. We also do humanities and arts advocacy. We were very much involved in speaking to the DC Council and the mayor regarding the FY 2014 budget and funding the DC Commission on Arts and Humanities. Some of you may be aware that funding had in recent years decreased. It's now back up to $17 million, and going forward there's a formula in place that will ensure that arts in DC are well funded going into the future, provided they vote for that on June 18th, which is the final vote. I just want to point out our website too, because we have a great website. We have a culture communique email that goes out to more than 25,000 people. It lists events all over the city, including those things occurring at embassies. And this is a shot of that website. What you see there is this is actually very current. This is happening this Sunday. Israel at 65. There will be a food and wine music festival there at the embassy there. And as I said earlier, we really focus on neighborhoods. Our goal is to move people off of the mall, through the Smithsonian. We want them to see the federal monuments, the federal museums, but we really want people to go out into the neighborhoods where there is economic redounding to the businesses that are there. And after all, when tourists come into the city, that's really what we want them to do, is spend money, leave the tax revenue here. So when we say we create authentic DC experiences, one of the other things we say is we create those experiences that come after the common Washington, D.C. Washington, to most of the world, is the federal city. It's the government, it's President Obama, it's Congress, it's the Smithsonian, it's the Kennedy Center. We're really focused on neighborhoods, and as I said, the economic development, and most importantly, the civic pride, the civic responsibility, and the civic engagement that comes with that. These are our signature programs, the DC Neighborhood Heritage Trails. I did not bring our guidebooks because they are precious, but and are distributed to the businesses in the neighborhoods. The goal being that we ask people to go into those businesses and pick up the guidebook, which has the map inside that tells you how to walk the neighborhood and see the information that is on these signs. You've probably seen them. They're about 6 feet tall. We are launching our 15th trail on July 13th at Logan Circle. Our African American Heritage Trail it's a database of 200 sites in DC of significance to African Americans. It does represent people who are national but also local, like Sterling Brown, who is the Poet Laureate for the Library of Congress. Lois Milo Jones, who is a fantastic artist and art instructor at Howard University. Elizabeth Eckley, who you probably all, if you saw the movie Lincoln, you know that she was married to Lincoln's seamstress. So that's a really great tool, and people love that. We are also starting a Women's Heritage Trail, which will be patterned very much after that. Around the World Embassy Tour, Passport DC, and I'll talk very specifically about those two. Walking Town DC, you may have participated in that. That's really people walking in the neighborhoods. We do that every fall with guided tours. Some of them are at lunch hour and happy hour. Those have become very, very popular. Art for All DC also has an international element. And the U Street Visitor Center, which is next to Ben's Chili Bowl, just know that if you're in that neighborhood and need some information about Mid-City, U Street Corridor, or other neighborhoods in the city, it is upstairs in the U Street Visitor Center. And I've already mentioned our website and cultural communique. These bicyclists are here because they were probably participating in our biking tour DC. International programming, as I mentioned, is Art for All DC, our Embassy Chef Challenge, which is our annual fundraiser. And you may have seen this Savor the Day postcard. I just had this there as a sample. It really represents the one we had in March. But, you know, it's kind of a catchy savor the date, because you will be savoring the food should you come to the Embassy Chef Challenge, which is about 10 to 12 chefs from embassies competing. Passport DC is the month of May. I'll talk a little bit about that. And we also have international member events at a number of international institutions. One of the other handouts is this fact sheet on cultural tourism. Our members are listed. You'll see the embassies and international institutions listed there. Art for All DC. We'll be launching that for the second time this fall. It will go from September 13th to October 6th. 3-week promotion, performance, film, dance, neighborhood dialogue. One of the things that the Humanities Council of DC does is they call it Humanitini, but it's dialogue. We've had gentrification, we've had conversations about international culture, embassy locations, but it's really to build awareness of and access to the arts throughout the city. So it's occurring in every ward and in many, many neighborhoods. And we want to ensure the participation of the international community, so some of those events take place at embassies in the city as well. This is one of the events where they were setting up for an Art for All activity outside. Our Embassy Chef Challenge takes place in the spring. As I noted before, it's a culinary competition for embassy chefs. It's usually 10 to 12. It takes place in the Ronald Reagan Building and International Trade Center. That's a really nice partnership that we have with the embassies and the Ronald Reagan International Building. It is a premier social event for the diplomatic and cultural communities, because even if the chef of an embassy is not participating, many of the staff from the embassies do come to the Chef Challenge. It's a ton of fun. I can't tell you how much fun. There's a silent auction, there's a live auction. This year we had Carla Hall, who is a celebrity chef. She also has product in Whole Foods for sure, but she's also on the ABC show The Chew. So she was a judge and an auctioneer at that event. Passport DC occurs every May, and that is the umbrella name for the month of May. This year it was designated as the top 100 destination for group tours by the American Bus Association, so people literally prepare to come to DC that first or second weekend in May to do the embassy open houses. This year, we had the microsite, it's still up actually, Passport DC, which told you everything all month that was going on around Passport DC. We also had a mobile app, and we also really worked hard to build some overnight stays through hotel packages with Destination DC. The Around the World Embassy Tour is actually the part of Passport DC that we produce. This year we had 42 participating embassies. It was so much fun. It was May 4th, which was a beautiful, sunny, nicely temperate day. We had over 27,000 people come, and most people will will go to 4 or 5 open embassies. So you get, embassies really love the foot traffic. For some smaller ones, they might only have what we call a courtyard party, but they party all day, and it's just great food and mixed drinks that are specific to their country. Everything is free. We had a lot of press coverage. The entire month of May is always declared by Mayor Gray to be DC International Cultural Awareness Month. And this is the brochure. If you pick this up outside, it has a lot of the information in here. What was really fun this year too is we really made an effort to have young people come out. We worked with the Boys and Girls Club, the YWCA, the United Nations Association. We've also, of National Capital Area, we also have a relationship with them, so that we also participated in some State Department events with them as well. The second weekend is called the Shortcut to Europe, the European Union Embassies Open House. And you can see we had quite a few of the European Union embassies participate in that. And great attendance, because you probably don't recall, I do. May 11th was really rainy and wet and windy, but people stood out there with their umbrellas and waited to go inside the embassies. Again, it's free admission. It's a great way to see other countries. We say travel the world without leaving the city. This year we were particularly excited because embassies, now in its 6th year, embassies really kind of stepped up their game. Japan, for example, decided to focus also on manufacturing, not just tea ceremonies and costumes, but they brought in automobiles, they brought in Canon cameras, they brought in Fujifilm, and most interesting, they brought in their robotics. There was a robot and the man after whom he was patterned, sitting in a room together. I think thank goodness they were both sitting down, because I think if they stood up they would have scared everyone. But they also had what they called a baby robotic, which could actually have a dialogue with you. And that was inspiring to a number of other embassies who next year are already planning what they're going to do different. Because part of why embassies are here is not just to show their culture and hope that you'll go tour those countries, but there's also some trade that they want to strengthen with the United States. So if they can start showcasing manufacturing also as part of open houses, that's just, I think, strengthens our relationships with them. There's also the National Asian Heritage Festival that is considered part of Passport DC. They are key partners with us. Again, great attendance. It's a street fair. People have a wonderful time down there. So what does Passport DC, that entire month of May, offer to embassies? Cultural diplomacy, one person at a time. And Cultural Tourism DC is just really, really proud to be that connection to the embassies. People come to us often wanting to get into embassies. We've had a person who wanted to sell green energy to embassies come to us. We've had a person who wants to sell mobile apps come to us. And actually, that worked out really well. The Embassy of Ecuador used this company, created a mobile app that works for touring the country of Ecuador, knowing what services are available in the embassy, and it also connects to their website. So natives of Ecuador who live in the city know what services they can go get. They can do some things through the mobile app, and people who live around the country can also access those services through that mobile app. So I thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about cultural tourism and our international connection. I'll just say one final thing. The heritage trails, we will probably also have an embassy heritage trail, or a couple of them, in the near future. And the State Department is working with us on that. And we look forward to continuing to work with the embassies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. Let's please give a round of applause for Cheryl for telling us about the great work that they're doing. We would like to open up Q&A. Hopefully you guys, if you have any comments related to the draft policy updates, as well as any questions that you may have with Cultural Tourism DC. Please note that we are recording during this Q&A so that for our own note-taking purposes. Kenny in the back will have a mic, as well as whoever's sitting in the front. You can just press the button to the mic and go ahead and speak right into it. And if you guys want to open it up for questions, we can try our best to answer them.
Hi. In a number of places it says you encourage embassies to do things. How do you encourage them?
That is a good question. Because some of these policies can't enforce or force the Department of State or either foreign missions to do this or that, we would like them to, be great citizens and also be good neighbors in the city. So these are policies that we would like them to do, and hopefully they can,
Yeah, I mean, it ties in a lot to, just to amplify what she was saying. A lot of our comp plan goals are kind of, they pertain a lot to our review authorities, but then kind of beyond, and they're represented as policy goals. But we do get in direct involvement with embassies through our role with the International Center, and also and Angela mentioned this in her presentation, Walter Reed, the portion of Walter Reed will remain federal, which means NCPC will have review authority over that. So in those areas, we do apply these as guiding goals. We also have a seat on the FMBZA, so these policies help direct staff in those capacities as well. But they really, the policies kind of represent a blueprint for how we want to work with federal agencies in meeting some of those goals and foreign missions as part of that. So.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I just have a question. In light of what seems to be an ever-increasing focus on security of embassies, how do you square that with your policy to encourage embassies to have walking trails through their grounds and biking trails through their property and things like that?
And so we have these goals to provide access, where accessible. We do not want them to encroach into the perimeter security or jeopardize anything that doesn't meet their security needs. And I think Department of State works very closely with these chanceries to make sure that they're designed properly. And I don't think it's in our interest to tell certain chanceries that they need to put it out of public space or in certain areas that would jeopardize their security needs.
Yeah, a lot of those policies also stem from our urban design element, and I know you know how this goes. When it comes to security, it's a delicate balance, and that's why we usually have the phrase "where possible" to try to, because it's kind of the reality of it. But I think I think foreign missions are very close to federal facilities in the sense that they're starting to move these things out of public space, putting them in the building yard, trying to accommodate access as best as possible, and we want to reflect that in the policies.
Any other questions?
I'll be shy. On the materials that were distributed, I'm talking about the bold line materials. The first section on Chancery development policies has no proposed changes in it as I see it. But in the spirit of being shy, I would ask whether or not the first bullet in the second section couldn't have 3 words added to it.
Okay.
Which would be to satisfy their current and future operational requirements, et cetera, et cetera. And that goes to the point that sometimes chanceries need to expand and they don't have room where they are. And you've said that you want to encourage them then not to sort of move into areas that further increase their presence where potentially there's some conflict, but rather to head to Walter Reed or whatever. So it seems to me that if it's open to discussion, it might be appropriate to put those words there and then provide some clarification. And then as a sort of an editorial mark,
Okay.
at one point in the document you talk about precinct level. And I think what that really means is places like Van Ness and Walter Reed, except that it's not self-explained in this document, and maybe it would be if you kind of use that as an example.
Okay.
The comment that Chris made just a minute ago about security needs, it seems to me also that you might want to clarify that what you're focusing on, with the possible exception of a historic property where the interior is also designated, is that you want them to have access to the grounds, but not necessarily the premises, the inside of the facilities that are under some sort of a designation.
Okay.
I was impressed by the remarks that we got from the cultural tourism leadership, and I wonder, sort of sparked by that, whether there's a way and whether it's appropriate for NCPC in its adoption of this to talk about the cultural values that come to Washington and how to leverage them, not just for the benefit of visitors or residents, but also to help the foreign governments, the missions, the chanceries, international organizations better interface with the city and the nation through such things as what they're doing. I'm not trying to give a brand name statement here, but something that would be in that line, it seems to me, would be appropriate to what is already taking place and has demonstrated success. I have some other scribbles, but I'll save them for later.
Okay, thank you. We'll definitely consider these comments, especially when updating our draft.
John and Jim?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, and maybe more to both the staff and to Cheryl, is there a way to make the embassy and the international presence more visible, both physically and, of course, kind of the mental map of both residents and visitors? I mean, obviously the flags are outside usually, or the buildings and so on, but has there been some thought on that?
You mean like a promotional aspect?
Well, just, it's this thing of once you get out of the monumental core, then being reminded that this is a special place.
So you're thinking signage as well as visual cues to point you to these centers? Is that?
I mean, it would, you wouldn't want to add too much to clutter, you know, that problem. But at the same time of lifting it up somehow.
Understood.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, that's something we can definitely consider as part of our wayfinding. Probably it would be addressed in our urban design element more specifically, but we can definitely consider that.
And I would add, John, that part of our discussions with the embassies about an embassy heritage trail would include some signage. We have had embassies approach us and ask us for signs outside. We recently did that with the Embassy of Lithuania. It was very important that not only the history of the building where they're located, but the history of the country, because during the turmoil, the embassy was the only place where the country officially lived. I mean, that's the only place that really existed. So that sign talks about the history of the country, the basketball team, et cetera, and it's right in front of it. Now, we did that not knowing that the Foreign Missions Office and the State Department needed to be involved. So I think going forward, that might be a little more challenging, but we do know that embassies are interested in that kind of signage. And I have to just take a moment and recognize one of our board members, Chris Collins, is also a board member of Cultural Tourism DC, and so I'm sure he's grading me and will correct anything I say. He's very knowledgeable, great board member to have on that. But we have talked to embassies, and we'll have some ongoing conversation with them about some signage.
Any other questions or comments? Listen. Okay, go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We are currently working with the Army to transfer the land to the State Department. On the PowerPoint, it said that currently.
Okay.
Well, you might want to say who you're representing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I work with the Office of Foreign Missions at the State Department. Hi.
So what you're saying, and just to clarify, the transfer
Is not done.
is not complete
But
yet.
we are working with
Sure.
them.
Okay. Did you, Chris?
Can you just clarify the comment period when that ends?
July 5th,
Sure.
correct?
Yep, July
July
5th.
5?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And could you clarify what rules of the city would apply? You said that they could proceed without review, but it seems to me that the zoning of things like use and height and other kinds of things would continue to apply.
Yeah, they'd have to get a permit. I mean, it's
So they
not
have to get a
they have
permit, so it
I mean,
isn't
I
a
think she
free
meant-
pass.
No, it's just not going to the Foreign Missions
Okay,
Board of Zoning
well,
Adjustment.
we need to be careful about how that's said,
Okay.
because zoning would be enacted and adopted and placed on both sides of the Walter Reed campus, even though there are two distinct kinds of use groups that might emerge.
Okay.
One thing that came up in the discussion that the planning subcommittee, the Committee of 100 had recently, and talking about Walter Reed, was, is there a chance to give that embassy complex more of a special character than the one at Van Ness, since the district is, trying at least to give special character to the eastern portion. I don't know what it was just a general conversation, but in terms of, I don't know, entrance plaza, or again, maybe better marking once you got there, and so on.
Could I ask John
Well,
a question?
would-
Is the Walter Reed area in the jurisdiction of CFA under Shipstead Loose? And if so, will you be preparing a recommendation to them to allow the diversity that you're talking about? of design?
I'm not sure if it's under them.
Yeah, yeah. I think to answer your question, because we just did a tour not too long ago. I mean, I think and just kind of speaking a little outside of the comp plan. I think one of the challenges to Walter Reed is the historic aspects of it. There's so much historic elements there that need to be, thought of and certainly preserved. I think that's really going to drive a lot of. I would assume that's going to drive a lot of the design decisions, but I think some of the basic tenets that we have in here about access and even some of the wayfinding discussions we have would be certainly some things that we'd want to see there. We don't want them to be two separate walled-off campuses by any stretch of the imagination.
I would just add too that we have had discussions with the Office of Planning and sort of effort that's going on the east side of Walter Reed. And we highly encourage a lot more coordination between the State Department, the Army, and Office of Planning as they both conduct their plans. So there'd be some synergy there. For example, possibly sharing some of the utility infrastructure and things like that. So.
Yeah, and the one challenge I think the State Department has is not every mission has the same program. I mean, they all have different needs and different space needs, and then you've got existing historic. Fitting that within the historic fabric of the campus is really going to be a challenging thing. So.
I hope this isn't too specific, but the Kuwaiti Embassy just bought the land next to them, which is zoned for R2, and
Okay.
they're essentially putting up an office building.
In residential use.
Yes. Is that allowed? And I can't tell on this map if that's actually in the permitted area.
Are you familiar with that?
I'm not familiar with that specific site. I would say that, and Melissa, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that should go to the Foreign Missions Board of Zoning Adjustment for their review before that would have been approved.
Do you know if there was a proceeding there?
I don't believe it's happened yet.
Okay.
Are you guys familiar with that? I'm not sure exactly where is the Kuwaiti embassy.
It's on Tilden, just off of Connecticut.
Okay. Well, under the kind of the way the law works, if it's R, zoned R, and it's in the diplomatic overlay, and it's going to be a chancery office use, and it has to go to the FMBZA. So if it's under construction, I would assume that's the case. But
It's not under construction yet. It's just a field.
Is it zoned medium high or high residential?
R2, which is townhouses.
Okay, I'll have to look into that.
Okay. Can I talk to you later?
Sure.
Thanks.
Any other questions? So
Thank you. I couldn't yell without it, but what is the process for commenting? Is this available electronically?
Mm-hmm.
And how long is it open? I'm sorry, I think you answered
Hey,
that.
Paul,
But
can you put it back to the page? So this is a 60-day public comment period, and it started May 6th, ending on July 5th, 2013. And you can email any of your comments to compplan@ncpc.gov, right there.
Oh.
Yeah. And also, if you want to receive further information, you can also go to the website at ncpc.gov, compplan, and you can submit any of the comments, and it'll come directly to us, and we can address them.
great, thank you.
Yeah, and just to add one more thing, kind of our process before we finalize the elements, we do list out and address all of the comments that we receive in our recommendation for the final. So you can see how the comments have either we've responded or shaped the revised final element.
Any other questions? We're good? Oh, one more, okay.
Hello. I notice there is, I guess, a policy recommendation about adequate off-street parking on private property. Will there also be a note about, encouraging the embassies to be good stewards in situations that they're forced to be on the public space on on-street parking?
It's definitely something that we can consider as we're changing some of our policies, but that's a really good comment, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you referring to illegal parking?
Very diplomatic way.
Pun intended.
Okay. But thank you very much for everybody attending. I think this is a great start. We have this draft out, and we really do want to get your input so we can, address some of the policy that we have proposed, and hopefully for the final element, we'll have some of the recommendations that you guys have provided. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.